Hello and welcome. Another edition of Coach's Corner. And I want to let everyone know that our Coach's Corner segment is going to start to be sponsored by Corvine Supplements. They're based out of Texas, and I've been using them for about a month now. And they are absolutely fantastic. They are all NSF certified, and they are going to become our permanent sponsor for Coach's Corner. Today, I am really excited because we're going to talk my favorite subject, which is NCAA Division III college baseball. That's near and dear to my heart. But we are going to go all the way out into the Pacific Northwest in Portland, Oregon. Lewis and Clark College head coach Matt Kosderka. And Matt, I am excited because, I made the faux pas not having my glasses on, thinking that we were talking Lewis and Clark NAIA, and then you alerted me, nope, not them. But you know what? I did a deep dive into your program and was not aware of the presence of the NCAA Division III model in your conference. So let's start there. Talk a little bit about Lewis and Clark and the conference athletically that you participate in.
Yeah, well, thanks all for having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk about Lewis and Clark, my favorite subject, right? So I think out here in the Northwest Conference, especially for folks out in the middle of the country or the East Coast, I think they think it's like another country over here. It's a long ways away, and there's not a lot of schools out here, right? Especially at the D3
Right.
level. So, within the Northwest Conference, we have 9 schools, including Lewis and Clark. I like to think top to bottom, it's one of the best baseball conferences in the country. If you don't bring your A game every single game, you're going to get beat in this conference. So it keeps me up awake at night, but it also is a great challenge for our players and our guys. And I think like Lewis and Clark and a lot of schools in our conference, I think we're definitely a little bit landlocked in that nature, but also schools that offer a great experience for all of our kids, right? Obviously, at the D3 level, a lot of people think, it's recreational baseball. They think we just kind of, roll out the balls and play, but we have uniforms and everything out here. It's great. So, and to be honest with you, our kids put a ton of time into the baseball, just like any other college baseball player would. But obviously, the academics is a big priority on top of that. A lot of our kids come to this school or this schools in our conference are similar to us because they want the opportunity to be a college student, to chase all their passions, but again, get as much baseball and competitive baseball as they want on top of that. So I like to think it's the perfect environment where if you don't want baseball to be your job all day long and you really want to have a great college experience, we talk about the complete college experience in our program, then I think you can definitely have that at our school or many of the schools in our conference.
Well, I really want parents to understand the NCAA Division III experience is absolutely tremendous. I spent 8 years as a head coach, Division III. I happen to really understand the key part of being an NCAA Division III athlete is the balance collectively as a student. You do have time to balance and interact within your college campus as well as the community of the school. But more importantly, as Coach alluded to in that, what I thought really great presentation is Division III baseball, contrary to popular belief, now more than ever. I can tell you I've gone to probably 30 games this past spring. And the competition level was elite. The pitchers generally in the 89, 92 window, catchers with elite skill sets. Talk a little bit about you're getting athletes from the West Coast, from Arizona, California, obviously into the Pacific Northwest. You're getting quality student athletes. And you happen to mention to me prior to us going live here, you really prefer the high school athlete, which is kind of rare in today's world.
Yes, it's a different landscape in terms of recruiting, not only for the kids but for us as coaches, right? And uh, I obviously my goal is to be a master mentor, a master motivator, and obviously baseball's the skill set that I have to teach those things, to teach the life game, right? And so I love to have high school guys come in because I think it's a good challenge for us, but also the guys who really excel at our level, they're very athletic, like you mentioned, they're very talented, but a lot of them are maybe late bloomers, right? Or they haven't quite hit their peak yet. I was that guy. I went to a Division III school. I threw 81 to 84. Told everybody I was going to play pro ball. Everybody laughed at me. Told me I needed a backup plan. But after 4 years and 20 pounds and 7-8 miles an hour, I had that opportunity. And so that's what I love about our guys. They're very talented. We have a number of guys who have, especially with the COVID years, who have transferred out of our conference and gone to Division I schools and done very well. My assistant coach was the D3 National Player of the Year. Went to play at University of Portland for a year and had a good season there. So there's a lot of talented players. I think the biggest difference is that Not everybody is going to be upper 80s to 90 miles an hour on the mound. Not everybody's going to hit the ball 400 feet. But there's certainly, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys on every roster that could probably play on a Division I roster. Maybe they didn't have it out of high school, and so it took a little while for that to develop, or maybe they want something different in terms of the experience. If you go to a D2 or a D1, it's a job, right? And nothing wrong with that. Again, a lot of people want that experience, but it's a lot of baseball, a lot of travel. For our kids, we miss like maybe 2 days, 3 days of school a year. They get to be in class. They don't have to take online classes. They get to have that experience that they want, again, that a normal college student has, but they get as much competitive baseball on top of it as well.
And I want to kind of get your thoughts on. I always used to take a photo of the freshman class individually, bring them in, talk to them about their hopes, dreams, desires with regard to college. Talk a little bit about when you're working with that, because you used a great word, a mentor, and not just a baseball mentor, but a life mentor. Talk about those 4 or 5 years. You've experienced it as a student athlete and now as a coach. Those really are the most pivotal, what I call growth maturity years that a young man is going to face in his life, as far as leaving childhood behind, becoming an adult, accountability. You have responsibility. Talk a little bit about that transition, the high school athlete being in the same place for 4, sometimes 5 years, and the effect that has when they graduate and go into the real world. It really helps them having that foundation, at a school like Lewis and Clark.
For sure. I mean, before I became, the head coach here at Lewis and Clark, I taught high school for 14 years and dealt with like teenagers. And my son's a teenager, and while I enjoyed it, I don't know if they were as open to mentorship as the kids are at our level. So that's why I love the college level. I always joke when kids come to our campus. Back in my day when I was their age at 18, I thought all adults were idiots and my parents were idiots and I knew everything. And then I got to college and I realized I wasn't as smart as I thought I was, and my parents weren't as dumb as I thought they were. And I think more than anything else, I really kind of realized, okay, I've taken what I think is the best things that my parents have taught me and raised me with, and now I got to figure out exactly who I'm going to be. And like you said, these are the most formative years in terms of that development, I think, because again, they are on their own for the first time. They do have adult-like responsibilities for the first time, and I'm not here to tell them how to live their life or how to do things in particular, but I'm hopefully going to push them and guide them in the right direction. And they're all going to have their own path, which is a great thing. But hopefully it's a situation where they're learn a lot of things through our program, through the things that we've offered that will allow them to go on and be great, husbands, fathers, business leaders, civil servants. I like to think of it, this is a 40, 50-year decision, not just a 4-year decision. I hope you have a great 4 years here. But if I just make you a better baseball player, I've really wasted your time. And hopefully I'm teaching you life skills. I like to think of myself as a life coach, again, who uses baseball because that's what I know. I don't think my evaluation of how good a job I've done, it really happens until 5, 10 years later when you see who our guys have become as adults, and who as fathers and husbands and those kind of things. So it's definitely an important time.
On my watch now, a lot of the boys that I coached, they're now in their 30s, mid to late 30s, have children, they're married, and it's really, it's great to hear that still they call me a coach and see how they've become as men. One of the things I really want you to share with parents is talk a little bit about the Lewis and Clark, the community within Portland, Oregon, as far as the campus size, what it's like with regard to some of the academics. I know it's a liberal arts school, but what are some of the things or the components that make Lewis and Clark appealing for a college, from an academic and culture or social culture environment on your campus?
Well, I think one of the big draws is that we're a small school. We're 10 minutes outside the city of downtown Portland, right? And I think Portland gets a bad rap, especially nationally. People don't know what Portland is. It's not a perfect city, just like any big city, but there are a lot of things for our kids to do here. Whether it's get opportunities in terms of jobs, internships, those kind of things. It's 10 minutes from our campus, or just entertainment options. We always talk about, like, you can go 90 minutes to the east and you're up in the snow in Mount Hood. You can go 90 minutes to the west and you're out at the Oregon coast, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world, I think. So a lot of the things to allure there. But I think also one thing about our campus and even our baseball program as well is that we really allow our kids to chase their passions here. We don't try to steer them and tell them everything they got to do. We kind of let them have a little bit of ownership over that. And so they get to come in and kind of have their ideas on what they want to chase. We're here to certainly foster those things and maybe open their eyes to different opportunities that are out there, whether it's career-wise, whether it's personal growth wise, whatever it is. And obviously, I think a school like ours, which does have a pretty good academic reputation along the West Coast and pretty much nationally, is that I think our kids in a small class size really get to have the academic experience that my sister never had at bigger schools, right? 130, 300 kids in a class taught by a TA. They never saw their professor, which again, you can get a great education in that situation if you want to. But for us, our classes average about 16 kids a class. You get to know your professors. You get to utilize them for resources, references, down the road when you need help with classes or when you need help getting jobs or internships. And so I think that's a big allure to our campus. And also for us individually, I think our campus is usually ranked in the top 10 most beautiful campuses in the country. So a lot of our kids love that. Our kids love to be outdoors. There's lots of opportunities to do that with us. Literally behind our center field fence is a 360-acre state park. There's 10 miles of trails in, so kids can go really have a lot of adventures that have nothing to do with the college or nothing to do with just the campus, but they can go do all these other things that maybe they couldn't do at other places.
And how do you handle with from a recruiting perspective, whether it's you or your assistant coaches? Do you tend to stay within a certain geographical area? Do you have camps? How do people kind of get on your radar as a staff?
Yeah, certainly. That's the tough part about it, right? And I think my goal and our coaching staff's goal is to know every top academic solid player on the West Coast. That doesn't always happen. There's a lot of them, right? But we're trying to look at every single guy, especially in the Northwest. We want to recruit the Northwest first, just like a lot of schools do. I think it's been more difficult for us to get those kids. A lot of kids up here, if they don't come to a Division I opportunity right away, they want to go to a junior college opportunity to try to maybe get there. Which teach their own. That's what they want to do. I think there's more kids for us. If you look at our roster, a lot of our kids come from the California area. A lot of those
Right.
kids want something that's a little bit different than they've always done. So they have an opportunity to come and have a little different experience here in Oregon. I think also they're attracted to what we do baseball wise in terms of the competitiveness, but also the things we offer off the field. Again, we talk about a complete college experience here. So we really try to work on obviously the baseball and the academic stuff, but we're also trying to create growth opportunities for them personally. We're trying to create career opportunities for them down the road. We're trying to really make sure that when they leave our program, they are 100% thankful that they chose to come to Lewis and Clark. And so that's our goal. And I think a lot of our kids really appreciate that. And I think a lot of our kids outside of our baseball program appreciate that too. Just our normal students who really have a great opportunity to do a lot of different things here and really kind of steer where their academic experience goes.
Now I know with NCAA Division III, it's hard to get a lot of games out of conference, especially midweek games. You have travel restrictions and so forth. But you had mentioned that you play some of those schools like Chapman, schools like that on the East Coast aren't as well known, but out on the West Coast. And so, talk a little bit about the Northwest Conference with regard to the College World Series, Appleton, Wisconsin, everything that's associated with the NCAA Division III World Series. Those teams from your neck of the woods are always banging on the door to get into the final 8 teams at the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, out of Region 10, which is our region, we've had a lot of teams, win, not only get to the World Series, but win the World Series
Right.
in the last, couple of decades. So a lot of high quality baseball out here. Obviously, the teams, the areas that kind of make up our region are like the Texas schools, obviously the California SCIAC schools, and then obviously the Northwest Conference up here in Oregon and Washington. So, a lot of high quality baseball. It is difficult for us because we are a little geographically, locked in to get games and those kind of things. It just makes a lot of sense for us to go down to California again when a lot of my team is from there. It's we get 300 fans at some of those games because we have all their families there, and it's a great opportunity for our guys to travel and be seen by their families. But at the same time, like for us, because we don't have as many teams in the neck of the woods that we're in, we don't play during the week a lot. So we don't miss a lot of school. We really, like I said, we miss maybe 2-3 days of school a year. We play on the weekends. We want our kids to be in class. We always talk about, if you do the math, it's about $600 per class. And if we're not in those classes, we're throwing that money away for our kids. And so, it is a little bit of a challenge and we have to make it work. We do have to start the season a little bit earlier than a lot of the schools do on the East Coast because they just can't because of the weather. But we definitely are always trying to get our 40 games in to give our kids the full experience that they can have. And obviously, try to schedule a quality team so we can have our conference be well rated, but also our teams have a chance to get to the postseason as well if we don't win the conference tournament.
And talk a little bit about summer baseball. Have you still been encouraging your athletes to go out and try to get into the summer collegiate league? Some college coaches now are very apprehensive. They don't want to lose their 3 or 4 hole guy, or they're Friday, Saturday, or their weekend guy? How do you feel about the college summer baseball opportunities?
I would lie to you if I didn't say those things don't cross my mind.
Yeah, right.
They're,
Right.
the summer baseball leagues, I think, are the biggest recruiting areas for the bigger schools now than some of the high schools areas. But at the same time, like it's not my place to tell a kid he can't have that experience, right? So,
Right.
in terms of the summer, like we're going to encourage our guys to do what works best for them. We'd obviously love for them to be playing, but for some of them, it makes more sense to go home and train at the facilities they train at. Or some of our guys, especially going into junior or senior year, the real world is coming real soon. So they got to go do jobs or internships or those kind of things. So maybe they're not playing; they're just training. So we really try to let them kind of figure out what works for them, and then try to support them the best we can. We always say like, hey, we can get you on a team down where you're from. Again, whether it's California, Arizona, or up here, or there's teams, all over the country that are looking for people to play. I get emails from people in South Carolina, all over the place looking for. There's different opportunities out there, and so I think it really comes down to what do the kids want to have, and hopefully, going back to your initial part of that question, like I'm creating an experience that our kids don't want to leave, even if some of the other schools come knocking. And we've had that discussion with some of our guys as they go out. Like, I'm like, hey man, please promise you're going to come back. And they're like, why would I leave here? And then like maybe they don't even understand how it's working, which is a good thing, I guess, for us. But it's a reality. And the transfer portal, all that stuff. We don't deal with it very often at our level, at least for our team. Again, I'm trying to bring in mostly high school guys for the most part. I wouldn't say no to a transfer. Obviously, they could help our program and help our culture, but it's part of the deal now. And so we have to try to adjust it. And like I said, hopefully we're providing an experience for them that they wouldn't want to leave. They wouldn't even want to think about it.
You know, I used to always try to encourage athletes that were late bloomers, to be very resilient. Like you're not chasing numbers, you're not chasing another high school student. You're trying to become the best version of yourself each and every day. When you're, actively talking with an incoming high school athlete, and what do you tell them? To kind of focus in on to help them best prepare so that when their feet hit the ground in the fall, that they're ready to be a part of the Lewis and Clark program. What kind of advice do you give to your high school incoming recruiting class?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things, and we have a lot of acronyms in our program that kind of help guide them. But I think the main one is maybe two main things. Like we define success in our program as being able to look in the mirror at the end of the day and saying, whatever happened to me, whether it was good or bad, I got the absolute most out of myself and the people around me. So again, it's not just about you; it's about lifting other people up while you're climbing. And again, I think that's something they can control every day. And if they can't say yes to that, then hopefully the next day they're going to work harder to make sure they can the next day. And kind of guiding that is a word that I found a couple years ago. It's a Greek word called arete, and it means the constant pursuit of one's potential. And that's what we really want guys to have. Some guys are going to play and be all Americans. Some guys are going to be here for 4 years and maybe never see the field that much. But that doesn't mean that they still can't be working to get to their peak potential. And again, there are going to be different levels of abilities, and we want them all to try to reach their max. Hopefully, we can help them extend what their maxes are. But again, in life, some people are going to be able to do things better than you are, and that's just the way it is. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to be the best that you can be. And so, I think a lot of guys when they come here, it's interesting. We had our first practice yesterday, and we tell the guys, hey, just play the game that you played to get here. A lot of guys want to try and do things they can't do, and so I think that you have to try to be the best that you are in the current moment, and then hopefully you have visions of figuring out how to continue to climb and going forward. So when you get to be an old man like like us, then you can say like, hey man, I'm pretty good with what I'm at, and I'm happy with where I am. But until then, and I'm 49, I'm almost 50 years old. I'm still trying to learn. I'm still trying to get better as a coach and as a mentor and as a husband and as a father and all those things. And so hopefully our guys are going to be lifelong learners, and they're always going to want to continue to grow and follow that arete mentality.
Well, I have to ask this because every single parent asks me this question. What is your roster size? Is there a max that you are allowed to carry or travel with? A lot of teams now are doing these developmental teams, JV teams, I guess, for lack of a better term. What is your roster size at Lewis and Clark?
Yeah, so the last 2 years we've had 30 guys.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
there are some teams in our conference who have JV teams and those kind of things. I think a lot of that comes down to like whether the school is driven by like how many kids are at their school, right? So some of that's like population and controlling your population of your school. But for us, we haven't had to have that, which I think is great. I like to have competition in our program, but I also don't want you to have to compete against 6 other guys at your position. I think that's a little much. And also, like, I can't provide enough repetitions for those guys to have a legitimate shot. And also, I think it's important for me to have personal relationships with my players. It's difficult with 30. I know it's even harder with bigger rosters. And like you said, you talk about the travel piece. So for us, we take a lot of pride in it. Everybody in our team gets to go on every single trip, whether you play or not. I want to make sure that you get to be a part of that. Some of the most fun opportunities we have in our program,
Absolutely.
right? There's always some,
Absolutely.
something that happens. I get lost driving a van, or something happens that somebody's going to talk about for the rest of their life.
Right.
And my first
Exactly.
trip here, I left 6 guys home, thinking that would be a good financial situation and being responsible. And I saw what that looked like, and I vowed to never have that happen again. So I only have 35 lockers in our locker room, so I would never get any bigger than that. But we, like I said, we're trying to keep it about 30 to 32 for the most part. Again, to make sure we can be as competitive as possible, have competition in our program, but also like give our guys opportunities to do the things they want to do.
And what does the recruiting class size typically look like? I mean, how many guys
Yeah.
generally each year are you bringing in?
Kind of depends on kind of what we're losing. We're probably looking somewhere from 7 to 9 guys for the most part.
Okay. And the big thing is the question that's going to come in after people are going to respond pretty quickly to this. Let's say somebody's from Chicago or the Midwest or even heck, the East Coast. I know a lot of guys that would love to be with hiking trails and, get away from the rush of downtown Boston or New York. If somebody has an interest in your school, what's the best way for them to connect with you
Mhm.
with regard to see if there's a mutual interest with regard to athlete to coach?
2 ways, I'd say. Obviously, just reaching out through an email is probably the best way to do it. And I know there's a lot of recruiting services out there that have some formulaic ones that kids will like mass template emails, and those don't always work the greatest. I prefer to like guys do some kind of like personalization of it, right? Make
Right.
sure that like when you say, "Hey, I'm interested in Lewis and Clark," it's not Lewis and Clark University, it's Lewis and Clark College, which is what we are. Or you talk about an academic program we have, make sure that we have that academic program. So it demonstrates that some guys will like put individual stuff like, "Hey, I saw you guys won this many games last year," so that kind of catches my attention, right? And I think the other thing is like just like every other school, we have an online recruit form to fill out. I always go through and look through those, and if you're a potential fit, I'm going to add you to our list. If not, I'm going to try to let you know that. It may be because maybe that we're not looking at that position, or maybe your grades are probably a little too low to get into our school, and so we have to have those conversations, unfortunately. But again, I don't. I try to be super upfront in the recruiting process. I try to be very open and apparent, transparent. Excuse me, and I want to make sure I'm not wasting anybody's time. So if it's not a good fit, I'm going to let you know that as well. But again, I
Is
think
it
it's important to
is
reach out.
there generally a academic component, like a threshold that you generally are looking at with
Yeah.
regard to a prospective student athlete?
Yeah, I say like there isn't necessarily one like level that you have to get into our school. I would say just for us because it is an expensive school, but we do a very good job with our merit system. Like for our guys, we probably look at like a 3.8 unweighted score and above, just because we know number one that you're going to get into school, you're going to be able to handle the academics challenge that comes with being a part of the Lewis Clark community, and then also like you're probably going to get a decent merit scholarship that's going to make it a realistic option for families financially. And it's unfortunate. Like at our school, and I'm sure it happens at other schools as well. Sometimes the financial component keeps you from having that opportunity, which I hate, but it is what it is, and we have to have that question and answer that question pretty early in the process, just to make sure again we're not wasting anybody's time and getting anybody's hopes up about something that's maybe not an option.
Test optional or test scores encouraged with regard to the application?
Yeah, you can turn it in here, but we actually don't look at it anymore in terms of like admittance or our merit money. So I know that's something we were optional for a while, and now it's just a situation where it's not considered. It's all based on your unweighted GPA and then the rigor of your classes and those kind of things as well.
Well, Mark, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk a little bit about Lewis and Clark College. Parents, Portland, Oregon is beautiful. Especially if you're from the big urban cities, the big major cities, and you want to kind of get away from that and kind of get into a more rural, smaller campus environment for college. Lewis and Clark College, especially in the Northwest Conference. I think you will find if you take a deeper dive, quality academics, quality athletics. And obviously, we know that the coaching staff, I'm going to have all the contact information, making sure that you're able to, with regard to contacting Coach Matt, with regard to his email address, his social media. Do you prefer email over social media, Matt, or is that something that you deal with direct messages? Some guys are not fans of the
Yeah,
DM.
I'd say probably email is a little bit easier. DMs don't bother me. I don't always see them is the problem, right? I try to limit myself on social media a little bit as well, just for my family's benefit, because it could be a lot of rabbit holes. So I try to keep notifications and those things off. So I don't always see them. Emails I see pretty regularly. So that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Well, I wish you nothing but great success, not only within your conference, but within NCAA Division III baseball. Coach Matt Kosderka at Lewis and Clark College, not university. Yeah. I strongly encourage, all those folks that are looking for academic opportunities. I always try to encourage parents, widen your lens. Don't just kind of lock into one part of the country, one conference. Really widen your lens. And I think you'll find that the Division III experience as a collective whole really is an experience that allows students to grow culturally, socially, obviously academically, and athletically. But it's a smaller campus, and you really become a part of a community within your campus. So, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to join me, and I look forward to following you in the 26th season and beyond.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Protein. Everyone says you need your protein, and I 100% agree. In 25 years in the nutrition industry, I believe it's the most important macro for overall health. From bone density to building muscle, from your hair, your skin, your nails, your overall immunity, protein makes the largest difference. Here at Core Vive, we give you the best, most important grass-fed whey protein plus collagen. A lot of people go and buy the grass-fed whey, they go buy the collagen, they put it together. We put everything together for you here in one simple pack. Whether that be throw in a gym bag or maybe mix it up in a water bottle in between your kids' game. Don't run to McDonald's. Don't run to the fast food. Get the protein in your kid's body, in your body, and you're going to see a difference in your overall health. So Core Vive is the best source of protein, your grass-fed whey and your collagen all in one easy-to-go pack.